Hello, everyone. This is Just a Dad, and you're listening to Coffee with Dad podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by my very own coffee, Just a Dad Simple Sip Coffee. It's available in the K-Cup form or 16-ounce bag. You can get it either whole bean or already pre-ground, and you can buy it at justadadcoffee.com. Underneath the video also, you will see the products display there where you can click on them. I hope somebody, when they ask you what your favorite cup of coffee is, that you say Just a Dad Simple Sip Coffee. Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. I have a very special guest on tonight, Terry Plumer. Terry is the owner-operator of Plummer Funeral and Cremation Services in Litchfield, Illinois. Terry, thank you for coming on. And the reason for my podcast is I love to show my appreciation for different people in their professions. So I want to start off by just saying thank you for doing what you do.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me out.
Yeah. So we're going to get to you own and operate a funeral home, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But tell me about Terry. Where'd you grow up? Brothers, sisters, anything like that? What did mom and dad do?
Okay. So, bred, born, and raised in Litchfield.
Oh.
And I'm the youngest of my family. My dad was born in 1920, World War II guy, come up through Depression. My mom, 1928, and hardworking gal, worked at Brown Shoe Factory, as did my dad. And my mom was one of 13. And so I got two older brothers, Big John Jr., and he's since passed away. And then my brother Bob, who owns RP Lumber.
Okay.
Folks are familiar with that.
Yeah. Based
out of Edwardsville. And then 12 years later, I was born.
Oh, wow.
So I was kind of oops, I guess. The joke in the family is that my brothers used to stack and rearrange the bottles back in the day when you took them to the grocery store. You had a bottle cart. And the joke was that I'm really not their little brother, that they found me in the return bottle cart at IGA and felt sorry for me and brought me home. So that's that story.
Yeah.
Fast forward, my parents split, separated when I was little, and my dad raised me. Mom moved to Springfield and was a waitress for years at a couple of very high-end restaurants in Springfield.
Okay.
And Dad was carpenter, and he had a little lumber yard called Plummer Lumber Company.
Okay.
Out on West Columbia Street in Litchfield. And got to work there for Dad growing up, and Austin 4x12 drywall and shingles and weighing nails and making deliveries when I got to drive. That was fun. And I got to meet a lot of people. A lot of the old craftsmen, the old school carpenters and whatnot. So,
what years would that have been?
Oh, that had been during the mid-'70s, 76 to 80.
Okay.
I graduated from Litchfield High School in 1980, and then went on to my dad thought I should stay in the lumber business, but if people remember, back in the late 70s, we had the high inflation and super high interest rates, and I watched people file bankruptcy, and basically, my dad was affected by that. And being a devout Southern Baptist, he said, "Boys, you don't go to church on Sunday and sue people on Monday."
Yeah. And
that was kind of a tough pill to swallow, but we survived. We made it, and I decided a career change. So my grandma Plummer's best friend, her name was Ruth McDonald, and Mrs. McDonald had a nursing home here in Litchfield years ago, down on East Columbia Street. And Mrs. McDonald passed away, and she used to watch me after school when I was a little kid. And so our dad was a pallbearer for her, and he said, "No, son," he said, we got to go to his funeral, and I need you to, behavior should be on your best behavior."
Yeah.
Okay, Pop, we'll do. And I just sat there and took everything in as I did. I was very observant as a kid. I still am. I pay attention to stuff. And none of my teachers ever tell me I paid attention. But anyway, I just took that all in, and I thought, man, I could do this, you know? And So I went down to the Litchfield Carnegie Public Library back in the day, and Mrs. Walker was the librarian, and they had this big section of books all about all the occupations that you could ever want to be. And I was grabbing anything and everything about funeral service and mortuary science, and looking that up, and the schools, and I was into it. And so plan B was, if I didn't succeed at that, I loved to cook. I would have went to culinary school.
Oh.
And Chez Terry, But so funeral service worked out. I got through Litchfield Community High School barely. Had a tough time in school, just pressures, and I just didn't comprehend things real well. So Stan Smith, our principal at that time, big guy. Stan was about 6'4", and big old bear paws on him, and called me in the office one day. He said, "Terry," he said, "so you're going to have to take a English correspondence course for your junior to senior year. You're not going to graduate." And I thought, oh man,
Oh wow.
Yeah, not music to my ears or my dad's, and because he was just one of those disciplinary, boy, you got to study and do your own.
Yeah.
Dad, I'm always working,
Yeah.
So all those deals. Fast forward, my girlfriend at the time, who was my first wife, Vanessa, I'll give her credit. Always gave her credit's due.
Yeah.
And was very helpful with me getting past that, and she understood English and all that. So at the end of the day, come graduation time, I was reading. I literally opened my diploma booklet as I'm crossing the stage, and Mr. Smith says, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "Make sure you sign this, sir." He goes, "Get out of here." So on to school we went. I had to go to Lincoln Land. Nothing against Lincoln Land, but I had to go to Lincoln Land to get a grade average established before I went to SIU Carbondale, and got that accomplished. I went down to Carbondale, spent a year and a half down there through the mortuary science and funeral service program.
Okay, I didn't know they had one down there.
Yep. And was part of their associate degree programs. SIU Carbondale was famous for the 2-year programs. I'd really love to see them bring those back. Now everything's a 4-year program.
Yeah, the aviation maintenance was a 2-year degree.
Yep.
They turned it into a 4-year.
A lot of my guys in our dorm were part of the aviation program. So we need those associate degree programs back more than ever. But went to Carbondale.
How was that?
Oh, wonderful. I was too busy. Carbondale had a notorious reputation for the party school. Because Amtrak ran from Chicago, and I went through Bloomington and Charleston, and on down the line.
Right.
So the train got dumped at Carbondale for the weekend, and it was just and Halloween was
even worse. They had to shut it down for a while.
Survived a couple of those, and it's like, people are nuts. But anyway, had good times down there. Got a good education. Had great professors.
What was the classes like?
They're small.
What was you had to study for that?
A lot of sciences, microbiology, restorative art, embalming chemistry, anatomy, physiology.
Okay. Would they take you to some local funeral homes? And
no, we didn't really get to. A couple times we did.
Yeah.
We had some pretty hardcore professors.
Yeah.
And I had 21 hours. Average was 15 hours.
Oh yeah, for a semester.
But my saving grace and all on all that was the fact that several of my classes and studies overlapped each other.
Okay.
So retaining information from one class from one semester paid off with the other I call it the trickle down information of class to class. And we had study groups, and it was real. It was just a great time. I enjoyed my time down there.
Where'd you stay at? Thompson Point?
Thompson Point, Pearsall, room 212.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Everybody remembers. Good times. So graduate, then what?
So during high school, I worked at what was Mindshine Funeral Home, And
Where's that at?
that was here in Litchfield, and
Okay.
it's since been closed. And I wound up buying the intellectual property of all that back in 2002, and then we went. I went to college. When I was at Lincoln Land, I moved to Springfield, and I worked at Curlin, Egan, and Butler Funeral Home.
Okay, that's still there, isn't it?
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's just Butler's now. And Butler's just, Chris Butler and his family just sold off to one of the conglomerates. And they put a lot of work into that, and enjoyed working with Chris's uncle, Jerry Butler. I was on Jerry's team.
Yeah.
And
what were some of your jobs there?
working visitation. Back in those days, you could go out with make a removal. Go to the place of death, pick the person that passed away up, brought them back to the funeral home.
Okay. That's not the case nowadays.
No,
Okay.
you got to have that license, and that's a whole nother hot mess with
Things have changed.
Things have changed.
Oh,
and
wow.
the licensing is a big problem with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation right at the moment. We're struggling with that. But I got to work funerals, and Butler's was predominantly Catholic. They served Catholic families predominantly. Catty corner from the cathedral, so I got to learn that business real well, and it was just fun working there. It was a great group of people to work with.
Learned a lot.
Learned a lot, and was able to take a lot of that information down to Carbondale with me.
Okay.
And back in those days, funeral service was generational family business. Grandpa started it, or great-grandpa.
Yeah.
Some of these people were 4 and 5 generations deep. And
You didn't have that.
Didn't have that. I was a newbie.
Okay.
I was just, you were lucky if you got your foot in the door at one of the good firms. You were blessed.
Okay.
And if you really did a good job, they bring you into their wing, and bring you into the family.
Yeah.
But those days are kind of gone. The generational firms have burned. I don't want to do that. For various reasons. It's a 24/7 business.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
And holidays and Christmas, and
Never take a break.
so as they told us the first day at school. Now, our one professor, Dr. Hertz, he'd say, "Now, young people, death takes no holiday. Be prepared. You're going to get called away at dinner and Christmas morning, and your kids' birthday parties and whatnot. Be prepared for that." So, it's like, okay, all right, got it. So, yeah.
I'm sure you've had your fair share of them in the years.
We have, but you know what? It's just honor to get family that trusts you and calls you.
I know I've been to some funerals that you held, and seeing you there and the calming, and you're very good during that process. It is such a difficult time, and it seems like, wow, you were just meant to do this.
Appreciate it. I think so. It's a calling.
Yeah.
And just like people that are in the ministry, that's a calling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of callings. People. There's people that the doctors, the nursing staffs,
police officers,
educators, police officers.
Yeah.
Just the job you did.
Yeah.
That's the thing about small towns and big towns. It just everybody depends on somebody for something.
Yeah.
It's kind of that melting pot of without you, I couldn't, I couldn't fly a plane,
Right.
when you were with your former job.
FAA, yeah.
And all the support staff and stuff that goes on, the delivery people, it's, custodial staff. And I learned a long time ago, be nice to those people that, are mopping the floors and vacuum. They're the people keep the place clean. Be respectful of those people.
Yeah.
And everybody comes. Every family that walks through the door, their stories are different. I see a lot of cookie cutter approaches to dealing with people, and it's like, no, everybody's different. Everybody's needs are different.
Being able to adapt to the situation.
Yeah, and I've had the honor and privilege of serving generations of families, and some things change and some things don't. But when they come in, they expect a certain level of service and understanding, and I'm just not in the cookie cutter business. And not taking a swing at any of my colleagues out there, but we have some people in every business. There's the cookie cutter approach to serving people. And I tell you what, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but service industries here lately which is what I'm in. I'm a service provider, and I don't know what was in the jab or whatever, but boy, the attitude towards service has just really gone to pot.
Tough to find the good, the help. Yep.
Yeah. So back to where I, after graduation from Carbondale, I worked at Decatur, Illinois for Brentlinger Funeral Homes as an apprentice, and was there just a short period of time. They had a staffing issue and they needed licensed funeral directors. They didn't need snot-nosed apprentices. But I gained some great experience, worked with some great guys, and maintained those relationships throughout my career. I had a boss up there. His name was Bob Linton, and his wife taught at Milliken in nursing. Milliken is a big nursing, wonderful class nursing program, and so I grew up in the household of World War II Army sergeant. So his mentality just didn't bother me. It said, just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Okay. You don't have to, just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Yeah. You won't give me any guff. I won't give you any guff. Just tell me. And, still appreciate my time and the education. Yeah. I got there. I got to live downtown at the old funeral home, down West Main, right, not too far from Milliken University, and it was just, Decatur's got, it's a blue collar town image. On the Caterpillar, and Bridgestone, and
a lot of industry there.
ADM, Staley's, Tate and Lyle now, but good times up there.
So, what year would you have opened up your funeral?
So I came back. I came back and I worked at Mine Shines, and then there was a merger that took effect, and I was the little guy on the totem pole, and I got let go. Okay. And it's like, okay, reality check. So, all right, do it. So wound up in the funeral business. Your sales reps were your best contacts. They had
sales reps. There's people that come in.
Casket sales reps, funeral register book, paper goods,
everything.
Yeah, everything and anything that.
But they know what's going on with because they're at all the other funeral homes.
They had the pulse on funeral service that nobody else had. They knew what was going on. So it was getting fall, and it's like, all right, I got bills to pay. I got Yeah. So I went down to Centralia, Illinois, and I worked down there for the Garnier family. And as I was told, my work was to be seen, but I wasn't, because I wasn't a Garnier. It's like, okay, no problem. I got bills to pay. And they pay me well. They pay me well to stay all the way. And while I was down there, I came home and I thought, man, I'm going to do this one way or the other. Okay. And so Mr. and Mrs. Wilbert Ross, Wilbert and Esther Ross, and they owned Ross Funeral Home, which I now own. And we negotiated maybe purchased the business, and I took over December 3rd of 1985. Oh, wow. And normally that probably would have waited till after the first of the year for me, but while the iron was hot, we struck, and at the encouragement of my accountant, Dave Pritchard, and it was game on. So we did it.
What was that like, starting your business? Like, this is the first business you owned, right?
Yeah. I was 24.
Wow.
Just had turned 24, and just a couple of weeks on, and I sat in. We had the closing, and I was sitting. It was at Ron Scharf's office there in Litchfield. He represented Mr. Ross, and G. Bradley Hamlin was my attorney, and I sent it off. Everybody had left, and I'm sitting there, and I got the keys to the building. I got this stack of paperwork, and I thought, man, what have you just done? Oh. It's like talk about the reality check slapping you.
Yeah.
And so what happened is I basically purchased the business operating entity.
Yeah.
And I leased the real estate.
Okay.
And
change the name right away.
It just Ross Plummer. And then traditionally in that business, you leave the former name on for a certain period of time as a courtesy.
Okay. That's
and
nice.
just get everybody acclimated.
Oh, yeah.
Change. And I wasn't able to get the loan I needed. So I went out and I borrowed money from private individuals.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the lumberyard days. I just remember who Litchfield had old money back.
Yeah, yeah.
There was still a lot of old school money, families that were well to do, and I was able to borrow money and at 10% interest. And I paid those individuals back over a 5-year period.
Okay.
And mind my P's and Q's and just try to give good service.
Right.
But the funeral home was kind of been disheveled. Mr. and Mrs. Ross were 80 and I was 24.
Wow.
So talk about your generation gap. And
he stayed on till 80.
80. He was there 45 years of his life. The funeral homes only had 3 owners in our 84-year history.
That is a calling.
And it started out as the Ross and Becker Funeral Home, which is the Becker family from Mount Olive, Maynard Becker. And his brother was Dr. Vernon Becker here in Litchfield. Beckers were very important family back in the days and had ties to the old American radiator plant here in Litchfield.
Oh, wow.
And so Mr. Becker's brother was killed in World War II, and then he went back down to Mount Olive to help his dad.
Wow.
And that generation still continues with Ed Becker and then their son Doug, who is the newest and youngest member of that family. So Doug comes up and gives me a hand once in a while.
Yeah.
And so there's that lineage for the business. But 1940 is when that started.
You remember your first funeral? 1985?
I do. It was Mr. Richard Hantla, and his wife, Judy, still here in Litchfield. And that was my first funeral. It was out of the First Presbyterian Church. It was on a Sunday.
Oh.
And that was my first call. Yeah.
Nervous, probably but you'd kind of been doing it for a while, so.
Yeah. A little nervous, just hoping and pray the funeral car would start and stuff like that. It was, mind you, I took on a building that hadn't been anything done to since the mid-1960s.
Wow.
And it was 1980. That didn't sound like a long period of stretched time, but there was just things that had to be done.
Yeah.
Carpet, paint, windows, air conditioning unit, cars. So Terry was watching his P's and Q's, and we had no lift or ramp or anything. We hossed everybody up steps and
backs
caskets. Yeah. So, yeah. And I was in much better physical shape back in the day. Yeah. So, took overnight and then just slowly worked on giving families that called me good quality service.
Yeah.
And then in 1993, we were able to take ownership of the real estate from Mr. and Mrs. Ross. And
is that where the place is at now?
it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in 1995, we did a remodel, major remodel.
Bigger, right?
Bigger, added a new ground level addition. The Americans with Disabilities Act had come out, and we were forced to do something. And I actually owned property out on Lake Road, kind of behind the condominiums there on Elizabeth Drive, and we're kind of actually where they're going to build that new the sports center.
Okay.
I owned a chunk of ground. Dave Fleming sold. I had to have a plan
B.
Plan B. So it was just decided that we'd be better off staying where we were at. And even though it wasn't going to be a new facility, we could still accomplish what we needed to.
Yeah.
And bought a rent house behind us and bulldozed it and put our parking lot with the Christian Church, Union Avenue Christian Church parking lot.
Okay.
So we had all those bases covered. So
owning a funeral home, there's probably people you hired just for the funeral, and there's probably people you have on staff, and
Yeah. So you can't, got to have good socially involved people, caring, like to interact, talk. So I've got a great, my whole crew is just wonderful. I'm the only funeral director and bomber on staff. I do have a full-time administrative assistant, Paige Myers, and then got several part-time people that come in. And I got a couple of colleagues that come in and just tell me on an independent contractor basis, just because I'm busy orchestrating. I usually try to go out and make the removal myself, get that first interaction with the family, if I can, depending on logistics. And then really try to make all the funeral arrangements. And then it's my responsibility to make those phone calls and make, it's what I call funeral directing. I'm out there and I need you guys and I need you guys. And,
How many typical phone calls you got to make?
Oh, on a given day, we used to do all the phone. We used to call pallbearers to everything, but in these days with the telephone situation, it's like, folks, the only thing I'm going to have you do is if you'll contact these pallbearers, just tell them to be here at 10:30 and we'll be good. And it's the only responsibility I really ever give the family. There's the, contact the minister, which we do right there with the arrangements. Yeah. So we can get our obituary correct.
Getting everybody on the same page. And
on the same page. And
that probably changes, and then you got to change, and something comes up. And
pallbearers change. Musician can't come or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Making sure the vault's ordered, cemetery's notified, graves open.
Yeah, that's something my dad died. I learned. I didn't realize people were put into a concrete vault. Yeah, I thought they just put the casket in the ground, but there's a whole process to that. Cemetery
rules, and we could sit and talk all day about that side of it.
Yeah.
And then I got families that say, Terry, we really don't want to do the funeral. Can we just have a private viewing?
Yeah.
And then have mom or dad cremated for that, and educating the public. Just trying to get people educated on all their options is a big deal. I go to conferences all the time.
What's changed over the years?
Are
the conferences different? Are they talking about different things?
Or? Oh, yeah. We're regulated. So we get Federal Trade Commission regulates us. We're getting ready to come out. We're getting ready to deal with a new set of rules once they get those done. The thing I love about regulators is the fact that you got people making rules that know nothing about your occupation. Or how things work, that have never walked through the funeral process themselves, but yet they're making all the edicts of you guys are going to have to do this.
Right.
Families better do it.
And you got to do it.
And you got to do it. They'll nick your license.
Yeah.
Regulatory things have changed. People have changed. Society has changed. What was important to mom and dad or grandma and grandpa is not necessarily important to those in charge of making arrangements today.
Okay.
Powers of attorney, more important than ever.
Really?
If anybody's out there really listening, do yourselves a favor. I don't care what age you are. Make sure you got a power of attorney in place. You guys, accident, stroke, anything like that.
Like a medical power of attorney?
Medical and financial power of attorney. Medical is definitely important. So somebody can make decisions and answer on your behalf and just do things.
Yeah.
The medical power of attorney allows that power of attorney to make funeral arrangements, and which is very important because it's not so much as it was in the old days of the person, the legal next of kin.
Yeah.
It's the person legally entitled to make arrangements now. That's the conversations we have.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure
Should have went to law school. I tell you what, it just, the stuff that we have to deal with today that we would have never dreamt of.
Yeah. So Terry, what getting away from the funeral home a little bit, tell me about Terry. What's some of your hobbies outside of funeral home?
Well, I love to pull the grills out.
Cook.
The Weber, the Blackstone, the Traeger, and we have fun.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, that's a good one, Tom. Ribs.
Oh yeah. Does the meat fall off?
No,
But it just tastes
well.
good. Tender?
There's those competition rib guys.
Yeah.
If you can pull the bone out, they're overcooked. It's like no, they're supposed to. And so I'm not into competition. I don't have time for it. I'd love to.
Oh really?
Oh yeah. But my favorite dish to make is chicken marsala.
Okay.
And you just give me some shallots and mushrooms and garlic and cream and chicken broth, and
That's enjoyable to you.
Look out, man!
Cooking.
It's
That can be such a chore. Like, oh, I got to cook like this, but you're like, I want to cook.
I know Dr. Johnson's probably listening to this, but anyway.
Oh, it's not good for you.
Oh, there's a good guy.
Yeah.
And I'm type 2 diabetic, so it's like, all right. So got to watch that A1C thing.
Older we get, the more we got to watch.
What I really enjoy doing though is going trout fishing, fly fishing.
Okay.
I love to go down to Bull Shoals, Arkansas on the White River.
Oh, I didn't know you could fly. I just think of fly fishing Colorado or something.
Oh no, you get a stream and
has to be shallow.
Yes, and the thing about the White River down there, it comes Table Rock Lake and all those lakes through the Ozark Mountains down there, Bull Shoals. It's just the White River dammed up in various stages throughout the mountains down there. And where we fish is below the dam of Lake Bull Shoals.
Yeah.
So that's a hydro electric generating plant.
Yeah.
And they got the bullhorn if they open up a gate.
No kidding. You got to watch out.
Yeah. So,
have they done it while you're down there?
Oh, yeah. Sure did.
Did you get out of the way? I mean,
I did, barely. Our group did, barely.
Was there a group that didn't?
Get
washed down a little bit?
It's kind of interesting, the stories you hear. Our guide, one of our guys was a guide for years down there, and he had some more stories. But the thing is, you got to keep the nose of your boat, and you use a special boat down there. It's designed for the White River. It's a flat, but you keep your nose of the boat to the dam at all times. So when the rise of the water comes from the opening of the dams, of the gates, your boat can go up. Otherwise, the water comes over the back of the boat, and you're down. And here we go. I've been in it where I did fall and stepped in a hole and tripped and filled.
So do you walk as you're fly fishing?
Waders up with water, and you got 15 gallons of water in your waders.
How do you get the water out when you're filled with?
Boy Scout training was awfully helpful. Yeah, kind of like the fire to tuck and roll, and you just roll yourself up the shore, and then you strip down, and here we go.
I'd be like, grab a knife, just cut it, but those are expensive.
Those are $300. Yeah, especially when you're aware 3X.
But,
no, I enjoy trout fishing using.
You catch a lot?
Oh yeah. Well, it depends. Fishing's fickle, but
got it figured out yet.
Got to have the right bait and all that.
Do you make your own little flies?
I don't. I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, I think there's some people that make their own flies, right?
There are, and it seems like kernels, sweet corn kernels, in some kind of little rubber grub behind it seem to be it reminds them of the spawn, and they go after it.
Yeah, so that probably feels good to just get away for a while.
It does, even if
reset.
It is. I've been down there in the fall where there's just
it's beautiful. I bet
traffic is calm, the parks are empty, and
trees are changing colors.
Yeah, and it's just you in the water and the good Lord above.
That's awesome.
Time to reflect and refresh and do a brain dump.
Yeah.
So
your dad served in World War II. Did he? What did that entail?
Dad was in World War II and was in combat engineer, so he was always on the front line.
Oh wow!
And was
did he talk about it much or?
Not really.
Okay.
He saw a lot of stuff, and our old U.S. history teacher, Mr. Joe Fizell, he had a little hardware store in Litchfield back in the day, and Mr. Fizell, he rounded up all of us kids that had fathers that were in World War II. Some of them had their mothers were in World War II. Their waves or wax or whatnot. And he said, now, we do these reports. He said, if your parents don't want to talk about it, don't push the issue. He says, I understand, and I'm fully aware of what's going on. So Dad would talk a little bit, but he was wounded in action over in Fallujah, Italy.
Oh, wow.
And in January, and I think it was 46, if I got my date right with him. I learned a lot reading his discharge papers.
Dad kept everything.
Yeah. And boy, you found those, and it's like, oh my gosh.
And they don't talk. Yeah, Garland Holloway passed away, and we're looking at so many medals.
Yep.
Never said a word.
Yep.
It's like I get that, but you would have liked to have honored them in some way, but they didn't need that, you know.
Yeah. Of course, Dad had a Purple Heart with that. But,
Oh, wow.
and when Dad passed away, I rounded up all of his World War II stuff, and I held on to it for a little bit. Brother Johnny got his flag, being the oldest son, and but I wound up giving all that to my nephew Jason, State Senator Jason Plummer, Edwardsville.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jason's World War II history aficionado. His maternal grandfather was also in World War II and a captain. And so Jason's he's in all that. So he's got both as I understand, his grandfather, both sides of all their paraphernalia.
So he's going to keep that, try to pass that on, that story.
Yep.
Because it can't get lost.
I had a nice shadow box built for all that stuff. And,
that's awesome.
Yep.
So I did not know your dad ran the lumberyard.
Little lumberyard.
Where was it at?
Down in the corner of Columbia and Douglas Street, down by the water tower in Litchfield.
And you worked there?
Worked there. Well, I'll stop short of calling it child labor, but it was good.
Long hours?
$20 allowance the end of the week. It was good.
Oh, wow. Long hours. Like, so right after high school, go to work?
In high school and went to college and I still had to work, but hossing them 80-pound bundles of shingles and all that was that kept you physically in good shape.
Wow.
Yeah, quit your belly aching, boy. Just get with it.
Yeah. Well, Terry, it's just thank you for what you do. I know people come to you in a time of it's great sorrow on that, but we're very thankful that there are people like you that make that time as comfortable as it can, and just very, very appreciative of that. And, I know I speak for a lot of people just saying thank you for that. So
I appreciate that, Tom, very much.
Had enjoyed having you on tonight, and just thank you so much. So,
welcome. Litchfield's been home, and I've always, I had a lot of my classmates that went elsewhere, and I had other opportunities I could have went. And said, I want to go back home.
That's nice.
Serve the folks. So thank you for having me out, and appreciate your service to the community.
Thanks, Terry. Bye-bye.